I guess what's made it hard, especially over the last sort of 6 months, is that I've been working basically full-time writing this book. And I suppose the people watching the channel don't know that. So I've had to kind of fit the YouTube in around the book. And at the same time as I've been doing that, the YouTube has really grown a lot. So first thing is it's been really great to see the YouTube grow. And I'll tell you why. Because as you know, I've been betting on like gradual accelerating deterioration of the economy for a long time, right? And this is something that I've had with me like for ages. Like this knowledge that the economy will get worse and worse. And I first realized that's part of my job. And I guess it's a weird situation to be in. Like your job is to bet on the economy being bad, and you bet on it and the economy is bad, and then you make a load of money. And then year after year, you watch the economy get worse and worse and worse. And my situation was strange, right? Because I was able to make a lot of money by understanding the economy was bad. And then I quit doing that and I wanted to stop the economy from being bad. And it was almost like impossible to do it. So you can go and you can work for a bank and you can get paid more than £1 million a year to bet on the economy as being bad. But if you want to work for like government for free, you can't. If you want to walk into the universities and talk to the academics and be like, listen, can we talk about why the economy is bad? They've got no interest, right? And it's quite amazing, right? I think the world we live in is quite amazing. That somebody like me can get paid, you know, when I was in my mid-20s, £1 million a year to bet on the economy being bad. But I cannot do anything to stop the economy from being bad, even for free. It's weird. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. You would think that somebody who's worth £1 million a year to the banks should be worth employing for free by the government or by the media. And of course, parts of the media have been supportive, you know, like Laurie McFarlane, Open Democracy, put in my first article. Although, to be honest, who's been supportive beyond that in the media? No, I mean, we have had some support. Oh, the guys at Navarro have been amazing. They've been really supportive and they've pushed us a lot. Like we're really grateful for the support they've given us. But, you know, they're not the mainstream media, right? So it's difficult when you know something's happening and you can make a ton of money knowing that's happening, but you can't do anything to stop it. You can't do anything to stop it. And I've wanted to do that for ages. And I guess what the YouTube has finally given me is an outlet to try and do something that is positive. And I know, like, so far, you know, our influence on actual policy has been limited and things have been getting worse and worse and worse. You know, we're trying to become more influential in the Labour Party and in the media and in sort of in the political left, and we have our small amount of influence. But at least what I can do now is I can explain to people what's happening, and I can try and build a platform such that we can start pushing for like policy change. So it's been amazing to, like, you know, after a long, long time of knowing that things will get worse and not being able to stop it, I feel like now I have some small power to support people and also a platform on which to build bigger power. But I guess what comes with that is the difficulty of, now that you know you can maybe do something someday, then you have to start thinking a lot more strategically of like, okay, well, maybe you have a chance now to do something. Like when I first started doing this, when I first started writing articles, when we first made our video, it was like, we have to say something. You know, we just have to say something. So let's try and say something. But now we have a voice and the voice is growing. Now it's like, well, you have an obligation to start to think a little bit strategically about how can you build that voice? How can you build that power such that you can actually make a difference down the line? And then that adds another level of pressure on. And I know, because we get a ton of messages, that there are people out there kind of hoping that we manage to make this work, you know. I get emails from people sending me their CV, like, we want to support, we want to work. And I really, really appreciate that. But at the same time, you see that and it makes you realize, like, wow, like, people are counting on us to try and make a difference down the line. So it becomes stressful and it becomes hard, especially when you consider so I never was a writer, but the last 9 months I've been throwing myself into writing this book because I think that, well, to be honest, at first, when I first started considering writing the book, the idea was this could be a real springboard to use my personal story, which I've tried to avoid using too much, to really give us a much bigger platform for the YouTube, or for the Instagram, for all of the social media platforms to push this message. But as I've started writing it, I've really sort of fallen in love with the process of writing, and I really want to write something that has some beauty and is powerful and is emotional, and it's been emotional for me to read it and to write. But I've been putting so much of my emotional energy into that book that then it's hard at the same time to bring emotion to the YouTube as well. So I guess obviously the guys watching the YouTube, they don't know that day after day, every single day I'm writing. They don't realize I've got that on the side as well. And people sending messages you should do this, you should do that. They don't realize how busy I am, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. And on the subject of it being difficult, one thing I wanted to bring up was, again, answering a question that I get sometimes, which is, you're a rich guy. Why do you care if it's difficult? And we were talking about this earlier, right? And I think the first thing is, people, okay, and this is partially my fault. I think people overestimate how rich I am. They think I'm Elon Musk or something. I'm a rich guy. I made a lot of money in the city, but I quit my job a long time ago. I don't have a job. I don't have a regular income. So I'm living off of the money that I saved. I don't have enough money to build a massive social movement, build a political party like sometimes people say we should do. But I think the second thing, which I think is quite interesting, is this question of if you are rich, should you care? If you are rich, should you care if people are poor? And, we were talking about this earlier, and I was saying, so people who've watched this from the start will know I don't come from a rich background, right? I don't come from a rich family. I don't come from a rich area. And my family and the people I grew up with, and not just that, but the people I live my life with in this city, the people I meet, my friends, are not rich. They're not from rich backgrounds, right? So they live in this world that we've created now, which is difficult to live in. And especially when you look at what's happened the last couple of years, right? So we're in London. London rents have gone mental, right? So now this city is difficult to live in now. It's difficult to live in. And I'm not going to name names, but a lot of people very close to me are just struggling just to get by. And when people say you're rich, why should you care? I think it's easy to say that, right? But does that mean that I don't give a shit about my closest friends and family? You know what I mean? Or just the people that I lived my whole life with in this city? You know what I mean? I think one of the things which most upsets me about the inequality that we live in is I think that we are now more and more creating a society where, as an individual, your only options in life are to be poor or to be separated from humanity. That is the reality of a vastly unequal society. Because most people are poor, right? And, increasingly we're seeing more and more people. It's not just relative poverty, we're talking about people struggling to pay the bills, to pay the rent, right? And the more unequal society gets, the more that's your choice, right? You're either with the majority and you're poor, or you're secure, but you're separated from society. And I think increasingly we're living in a world where everyone is and has to be to some degree one of those things. You know what I mean? I was poor growing up and now I'm financially secure, but what that means is I'm separate from other people because other people are struggling more and more. See what I'm saying? And that's the world that we live in, and that's the world that we are creating. And I feel the stress of just the difficulty of simple basic questions where am I gonna live? Where am I gonna live? Next month, where am I gonna live? What's gonna happen if my landlord puts the rent up? What's gonna happen if my landlord kicks me out? Where am I gonna live? These questions. Simple questions am I gonna be able to afford to have a family? These questions, These are questions which, no matter if I can afford those things, You know, what am I going to do? Am I going to pay for all my friends and family to have a family? And even if I was to do that, right, which I couldn't afford to do, right, even if I was to do that, even if I was to pay for like all of my family and my 10 closest friends to have their families, right, then what happens when I go out the door and I walk down the high street? It's still full of these people who are struggling. And I think I understand it, right? Because, you know, I was poor, and I think when you are poor, when I was poor, you have this idea in your head, and I had this idea in my head: if I had money, everything would be fine. And that's the idea I had, right? And this is, in some senses, this is the story of my life, that I made that money, and I always thought if you make the money, you'll be fine, and I wasn't fine. Because you still live in this world with the people who are in this world, you know what I mean? You're still living with this world of, you know, like your closest friends are insecure, you know what I mean? The girls that I date, you know what I mean? They're insecure, you know, and they have this stress, you know what I mean? And the young people around me, like, they're living, nowadays, like if you're young, there's 2 types of jobs, right? A job that you can't pay the bills, and a job where you have no time to sleep. You know what I mean? Those are the 2 types of jobs young people do. And I live in the world full of young people that either can't eat or can't sleep. You know what I mean? And is that a good world to live in? And I see it getting worse and worse. So, you know, that is a thing that I see. And every day I'm aware that I don't have those struggles, you know, like of paying the bills. But I still live in this world. So it's sort of, yeah, it's difficult. And I'm not, you know, I'm not asking people to play the violins for me. I know it's difficult, but it is, it's hard sometimes. It's hard knowing that you have a voice and wondering how to grow it. And like now we're at the kind of point with the channel where I can't read the messages anymore. You know, for a long time it was like I reply to every message. And then it was like I don't reply to every message, but I read every message, you know? And now it's like I can't even read every message. And it's like and now I'm starting to think like, if it's going to grow bigger, and we want it to grow bigger, and I've got plans to make it grow bigger, like up until now, like I haven't made any money from the YouTube. You know what I mean? And that's fine. I don't expect to make any money from the YouTube, but it's getting to the point now where we're going to need support. I'm going to need support. I'm going to need people there to be able to read the messages for me and let me know what's going on and look out for what opportunities we can do so that I can focus on writing and making the videos, you know what I mean? And then I need to think about, well, how are we going to do that? How are we going to finance that? How is it going to grow? So, yeah, it's a lot. And, you know, I'm super happy, I'm super excited, but then at the same time, I'm also thinking like, all right, so there are probably some people that will say, and I see them saying, oh, he's doing this because he wants to just get like, he wants to get known, he wants to get like famous, he wants to get celebrity or whatever, right? So, you know, I quit my job in 2014 and I didn't start this YouTube channel till 2020. And before that, I volunteered at a think tank. I made a website. I did a 2-year master at Oxford. And the truth is, all through all of that, I knew in my heart of hearts that realistically our best chance at changing policy would be to make an online platform using my story and my face, pushing it to ordinary people to try and build a public platform. I always knew that, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to try and, well, to be honest, like I wasn't really sure I was comfortable with getting famous, you know what I mean? But now, like when the book comes out next year, the aim is, and we don't know if it'll work or not, but the aim is to try to build a big platform, you know? And I need to think like, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my life, you know? Like, because at the moment, it's just been me and you. And like, for the people that don't know, the guy that runs the channel, Simran, is a friend of mine from high school. We've been friends for 25 years now. But if it's going to get big, then it's going to need to be more people. You know what I mean? I'm going to have to start managing people. And it's just like, there's so much to think about. And at the same time, like, I'm getting these creative opportunities, like writing the book, like making the videos. But also I need to start thinking about the business side of things, the financing side of things, and also the messages are coming in. So it's like, basically it's hard. And I think it's hard just to find the time, because if we're going to grow, then I need to really sit down and make a business plan, basically. Make a financing plan, make a plan about like, who are we going to hire? What are they going to do? You know? But like, I don't have the time to do that with writing the book, with like publicizing the book, with editing the book, with also making the videos. So we probably have to stop doing the videos at some point so we can make a proper plan for growth, make a proper plan for hiring. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to think about. But all I would like to say is that I'm super grateful, even though I've said I don't have time to read all the messages now. And it breaks my heart a little bit to say that because I would love to read all the messages. But I'm super grateful for all the positive messages that we get, because the bigger the channel grows, the more we get negative messages. And as much as I would like to be like, I don't care about negative messages, you read them and you see them and they do stick with you. But, you know, we're lucky that for every one negative message, there's 25, 30 positive messages. And, you know, when I'm walking out, I get stopped in the street and everyone has something positive to say. So as much as I've said, like, I'm not sure about becoming famous, that is important. It's important that we get that positive stuff because otherwise it would be hard to keep doing this. You know what I mean? And I think, like, people see the channel growing and growing and they're like, well done, it's great. But they don't realize most of my days are in here, in that room writing the book, in here filming videos, in here planning videos. Like, it's quite isolating and it's quite lonely work. You know what I mean? Like, we started it during COVID when there was no one around. So those messages that we get are important because they keep me motivated. I'm sure they keep you motivated as well. But I think what I would like to say is that recently I've been thinking more about how do we grow it big, because I think we do have a chance to... Listen, I didn't start this to be a guy on YouTube. I started this because I want to reduce inequality. And I know that's not easy, but I think we have a chance to be a part of that. And what I will say for sure, 100% sure, is you will see political change in the next 10, 15 years. Big political change. The reason I say that is because the speed at which living standards have fallen in the last 2-3 years is massive. And I don't think they'll keep falling at that speed, but from here, they're going to keep falling quickly. And people are going to be mad. People are going to be mad. People are going to be angry. People are going to be scared. People are going to be insecure. And they're going to vote for change. And in most cases, because we're in a situation where the political mainstream is just unable to provide serious change. And I'm not talking about just the UK here. This is international, you know. You're going to see, you know, there was an election in Finland the other day and they voted out the centre-left and they voted in the centre-right. Those guys are not going to improve things. We've got an election here next year where we're going to vote out the Conservatives, vote in Labour probably. Realistically, those guys are not going to improve things, right? If people keep voting in centre-left, centre-right, centre-left, centre-right and seeing deterioration, they will vote for change. They will vote for change. And we could get positive change or we could get negative change. And we are in a position where if we grow this, we could be one of those people that push ordinary people in the direction of positive change, better living standards. Because I guarantee you right now, the other side is going to... I know what they're going to do. They're going to try and sow division amongst the general public between people who own property and people who don't, between the native white people and the immigrants. You know, they're going to try and sow like racial based. You can see that in what's happening now. You can see that's all over the newspapers right now in the way that they talk about refugees and the way that they mix them in with economic migrants, this kind of stuff. You can see that's going to happen. They're going to try and build more animosity between the old and the young. They're going to try and build animosity between the north and the south. And it will be the same every country. That is the direction that they're going to push things in. And if they win, then, you know, you're going to see some really problematic change in society. And at the same time, the economic situation is going to get worse. So I think that there will be change. And I think we can make it positive change. You know, there's a lot of fatalism I see in the messages where people say, oh, it's always that way. It's always that way. It's the problem is human nature. You know what I mean? And listen, our parents, neither of your parents, neither of my parents have university degrees, right? And they were able to buy property, raise families. It was possible 40, 50 years ago. So things change. Things change. And our grandparents and our great-grandparents were poor. Things changed. Things changed in a positive way for our parents, right? And now they're changing in a negative way for our generation and for generations in the future. And the reason that things change in a positive way is because people push for it. And that brings me to my final point that I want to end this on, right? Which is, I was out the other day at a friend's birthday party. I think he was 50. He's older than me, so people know. And I was talking to one of his nephews, and the nephew was like, tell me, like, how do I make money trading? He watches the channel, right? How do I make money trading? And this is a thing that we get a lot on the channel. How do I make money trading? How do I make... And of course, okay, everybody who watches the channel knows I was formerly a very successful professional trader. I still trade. I still make money. And we have a few videos about trading on the channel. And the general message is, don't fucking trade. Don't trade, because it's dangerous, man. It's dangerous. It's gambling. You can lose money. And of course, people will turn around and like, well, you do it. You know what I mean? And, you know, I was a professional at it. I do it because I was a professional, because I was one of the best people in the world at it. I think I still am one of the best people in the world at it. So I trade, you know. You know, this is why does Lionel Messi play football? Because he's damn good at it. You know what I mean? Like, I trade because this is my profession. This is my skill. This is what I've trained 20 years for. You know what I mean? And what I try and tell him is like, I tried to say, you know, I don't know how old he was. He could have been 18, 19. And what I said to him, listen, the only way for you to protect yourself, your family, your community, your future, is to learn how to politically engage with your friends and your wider community. Because you cannot beat the rich as individuals. You cannot. But we've created a society that trains our young people into like, hustle for you, hustle for you, hustle for you, hustle for you. And this is the perfect mindset to completely enable the rich to take everything. Because let's say like I'm a rich guy and I'm the strongest guy in the room. I'm 10 times as stronger as anyone else in the room. And I walk into a room full of 1,000 people. And my plan is to take all the assets of everyone in that room. What do I want? I want these guys to fight me one at a time, right? That's it. If these guys fight me one at a time, I'll beat every single one of them one at a time. And if these guys are unable to politically unite, then they will lose everything. They will lose everything. So I think we have, in a sense, a cultural problem in our society. And I understand it because I was the same when I was younger, when I was poor myself. I was out to look after me, you know, and because no one else was looking after me. I understand it. But if people in poor and ordinary financial situations are not able to look beyond their front garden and towards their wider community and say, listen, we need to get together and start acting as a group, then every single one of them individually will lose what they have over time. So it is a question of, can we unite? Can we politically unite? And there's people have been saying, you know, we need to put a call to action in videos. And there was a period when we were doing that. And do you remember what the call to action was?
Right.
It was three things. Right? The first thing was, understand what is happening. Understand what is happening. And, you know, the reason that I stopped doing mainstream media, or I do much less, is because I would go on Talk Radio, I would go on LBC, and I would fight with some guy from some right-wing think tank, you know what I mean? And yeah, sometimes I would win, you know? And then I would put down the phone, put down the Zoom call, and I would be like, okay, you had a fight on the radio. Who was educated? Who was educated? The way that we win is by providing ordinary working class people with an understanding of the situation. The truth of the matter is, if things keep going the way they're going, and there is no systemic change, then the whole of the bottom 70, 80% will be dispossessed, they will lose their assets, they will fall into poverty. If that 70, 80% understand it, they will vote against it and we can change the situation. So number one was understand. Number two was share the message. And the reason I said that is because it is only through building communities that we can win. We cannot win as individuals. I cannot win this as an individual. You know, I'm going to try and build as much as I can, but I cannot win this as an individual. None of us can. We're not going to beat Rupert Murdoch, you know, we're not going to beat the billionaires. We're never going to be billionaires. But together, we can still exert our power. But only together. We can only win together. So it was number one, educate yourselves. It was number two, share the message. And it was number three, push back. And I see people saying, how do we push back? How do we push back? But we need to be strong enough. We need to be strong enough. We need to be enough of us and we need to understand it. So we need to build the message, we need to grow it. And then when we have it, then we will push through political means if we can. And if it has to be other ways, then we will look at other ways. But we need to be strong enough. And at the moment, the working class is too divided. And there are too many people that are just looking for their own thing and not willing to organise beyond that politically. And I understand that. And I would never say to anybody, come support us and don't look after your family. Look after your family, look after yourself. But you need to be willing and able to open your mindset to those bigger political possibilities. But if we do that, we can win and we have to win. And there will be change. There will be change. And positive change has happened before. You know, look at what happened after the Second World War. You know, for the first time ever, we had countries across Europe, also in the United States, where ordinary working people could get good quality housing, education, healthcare, food, leisure time. These things were possible 70 years ago. They're possible now, but we're losing them. But we won them before and we can win them again, but we can only win them together. So yeah, I would encourage everybody watching to support the channel, follow us, share us. We're going to be trying to work out how to build that, and it might mean that we need to take a bit of time out. It might mean we need to start looking at how we're going to fund it long term. But we're still here and we'll keep pushing.